The ESX24 has a slightly unusual method of calling up and saving presets, and that's because it actually has a dual system for making and editing sounds. First, there's the instrument editor, which can be found for the current instrument by clicking the edit button here. And this is what you'd use to build your own instrument out of samples that you've downloaded or recorded. Basically, this window allows you to map audio samples to different keys on the keyboard. And you can also do things like tell the sampler to play a different sample if the key is hit hard or softly. Building instruments in this way can be a complex but fun process, and as with synthesis, it forms a pretty large topic all of its own, which we won't get into here. Normally, you load new ESX24 preset instruments using this black panel with green writing, instead of the normal drop-down at the top of the plugin window. If you've installed the jam packs which come bundled with Logic and GarageBand, you'll have two pretty extensive lists of factory instruments at the bottom of the list here. Any instruments that you create yourself or which you download from the internet will be listed above. So let's load up an instrument from the factory folder. I'm going to go for these acoustic harmonics. So now I can play with my keyboard to get these nice acoustic guitar harmonics, and as you can see, the instrument editor now shows the audio files which are loaded into the sampler. But there's also the main faceplate to consider, which allows you to manipulate and change the sampled sounds further. So for example, it has a filter which can filter out certain parts of the frequency spectrum. So this low pass filter cuts out high frequencies, allowing only the low ones through, and that makes the sound a bit more muffled. But the faceplate also allows you to do modulations. I'm not going to get into this in detail, but essentially these allow you to modify aspects of the sound dynamically over time. So if I tell the sampler to change pitch with an LFO, and then pull up the intensity, so you can now hear the pitch of the sound wobbling. This is all great, but what if you come up with a cool sound by modifying the faceplate settings of a factory sound? Each instrument that you call up using the Instruments menu has its own default faceplate settings, and although there is a way to save your faceplate settings into the instrument itself, I think it's wise to leave the factory instruments alone so that the original sounds are kept intact. So in this situation, the best thing to do is use the ordinary preset menu at the top of the window here. If I save this as a preset, and then reset the faceplate to a simple sine wave, when I call up the preset in the future, the ESX24 will remember the instrument and my edited faceplate settings. But the instrument itself remains intact, and if I switch away from it and then back to it again, it's kept in its original form. So this way you can start to build up a library of your own sampler presets with modified faceplate settings. This dual preset system in the ESX24 can take a little bit of getting used to, but it's really handy, and if you take the time to build your own sounds from Logic's default ones, you can come up with some really interesting noises.